The rain poured down in steady sheets that evening, the kind that made the streets shimmer like black mirrors under the dim glow of street lamps. Inside the grand old Oak Ridge Hotel, a warm light spilled across polished wooden floors, the scent of fresh coffee lingering in the air. Behind the reception desk, Emily Carter adjusted her name tag and brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear. She had been working at the hotel for 3 years now, greeting strangers, checking them in, always smiling, even when her heart felt heavy. Emily had learned to survive by tucking away her own problems behind polite smiles. She never spoke of her father's illness, the debts piling up at home, or the long hours she worked to keep herself and her younger sister afloat. The hotel was her safe space, a place where she could leave her own storms outside and be the warm welcome someone else needed. That night, as the front doors opened with a quiet creak, Emily glanced up from her computer screen. A tall man in a black suit walked in, shaking the rain from his hair. There was something effortlessly confident about him, but not in a showy way. His eyes were calm, his steps unhurried. She smiled automatically. "Good evening, sir. Welcome to Oak Ridge Hotel. Do you have a reservation?" He returned her smile with a small nod. "I believe I do. Daniel Harper." His voice was deep, measured, almost warm. She typed his name into the system. "Yes, Mr. Harper. 5 nights in our executive suite." She handed him the key card. "Let me know if you need anything during your stay." It was a short exchange, nothing unusual. But as he walked away toward the elevator, Emily couldn't shake the strange feeling that lingered, the way he had looked at her, like he was studying her, trying to understand something beyond her smile. Before I continue, if you're enjoying the beginning of this story and want more moments of kindness, hope, and humanity, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Whispers of Kindness. And please, tell me in the comments, have you ever met someone who turned out to be far more than you imagined? Over the next few days, Emily saw Daniel often. He wasn't like most of the hotel's wealthy guests. He chatted with the housekeeping staff, held doors open for strangers, and even brought coffee for the bellboy on a cold morning. He always greeted Emily by name, asking how her day was going. One afternoon, she found him in the lobby reading by the fireplace. He waved her over. "You work long hours, don't you?" he asked. Emily laughed softly. "Part of the job." "But you seem to care," Daniel said, setting his book down. "A lot of people hide behind their duties. You actually see people." The words caught her off guard. No one had ever noticed that about her. She didn't know then that Daniel was quietly watching, learning. And she didn't know the truth, that Daniel Harper wasn't just another guest. He was the sole owner of the Oak Ridge Hotel, visiting under the guise of a regular traveler to understand what the place felt like for both staff and guests. The storm hit the city on the 4th night of Daniel's stay, a power outage, flooded streets, and frantic guests. The backup generator kept the lights on, but the hotel was short-staffed. Emily found herself running from the front desk to the kitchen to help serve hot drinks, calming worried families, answering phone calls from stranded travelers. At one point, she noticed a young couple in the lobby with a baby, soaked and shivering from the rain. They had no reservation, no money for a room. Without thinking, Emily took a blanket from the concierge closet, wrapped it around the child, and quietly arranged for them to stay in an unused conference room with spare bedding. She even brought them soup from the kitchen, using her own meal voucher. Daniel watched this from across the room, his expression unreadable. The next morning, disaster struck again. A burst pipe in one of the upper floors sent water spilling into the hallway, forcing several guests to relocate. Emily stayed calm, guiding everyone, apologizing, finding them new rooms, even though her shoes were soaked through. By the end of the day, she was exhausted, her hands trembling from the cold. But she still stood at the desk, greeting each guest with the same steady warmth. On Daniel's last night, he approached the desk just before midnight. The lobby was quiet, the only sound the soft hum of the heating system. "Emily," he began, "I have something to tell you." She tilted her head, curious. "Yes, Mr. Harper?" He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a sleek black envelope. "I'm not here as just a guest. I own Oakridge Hotel. And I've been watching, I suppose you could say. Not in a strange way. I wanted to see how this place runs when no one knows the boss is around." Emily froze, her mouth slightly open. "You own the hotel?" "Yes," he said simply. "And I've never met someone who embodies what I want this place to stand for the way you do. You treat every guest as though they matter, no matter who they are or what they can give you in return." She blinked, unsure how to respond. "I want to offer you a new position," Daniel continued. "Front office manager, effective immediately. Higher pay, better hours, and more room to grow. You've earned it." Her throat tightened, eyes stinging with tears. For years, she had worked quietly, never expecting recognition, just doing her job because it felt right. Now, suddenly, the man she thought was just another guest was changing her life. Emily accepted the position, her life slowly transforming. The raise meant she could pay off her father's medical bills and move her sister into a safer apartment. But more than that, she carried the deep lesson Daniel's recognition had given her, that kindness, even when unseen, is never wasted. Daniel visited often, no longer as a stranger but as a mentor and friend. Together, they started small community programs through the hotel, free warm meals during winter storms, shelter for stranded travelers, training opportunities for young people in need of work. Emily threw herself into these efforts, remembering the night she gave her own blanket to that baby. Months later, Emily stood in the same lobby, watching a new employee help an elderly guest with his bags. She smiled to herself, realizing how far she had come, and how one act of kindness could ripple outward, changing lives in ways you couldn't always see right away. The man at the door had owned the hotel, but Emily had always owned something far greater, the heart that made it feel like home. So if you take anything from Emily's story, let it be this: never underestimate the quiet power of kindness. You never know who's watching, and you never know whose life you might change, including your own. And if this story touched you, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to Whispers of Kindness so we can spread more true moments of compassion and hope together. Tell me in the comments, what's the kindest thing a stranger has ever done for you?